there. Thanks for joining our webinar. This is Ken Majmudar from Ridgewood Investments. In the next 10 to 15 minutes, we're going to cover our webinar topic today, which is how you can gain freedom and grow your wealth without working any harder. This is a topic near and dear to our hearts. We love taking an educational-oriented view, and we love talking about the power of intelligent investments and compounding to give you freedom in your life. So let's start with who we are. We're Ridgewood Investments. The firm was founded by myself in 2002. We've been continuously operating for 17 years, and we're headquartered just outside of New York City with our office in Springfield, New Jersey. And we also have a second headquarters or a second office in Beverly Hills in Southern California, as well as Palos Verdes, which is also in Southern California. Importantly, we're a boutique investment advisory firm where you get to know the people that you're working with, and we take a personal interest in you. We're owner-operated, and we're an SEC-registered investment advisor, and you can look up information about us on the SEC website. So what do we do? Our firm, Ridgewood Investments, works with professionals, business owners, and affluent families. Important to know about our approach is that, number one, we're a completely outsourced solution. This means that we do all the hard work for you. You simply have to work with us, tell us your goals, and then we do the rest. We also advise you on making various financial decisions, which can be very confusing, in a way where we'll help you make decisions that avoid mistakes and also give you the maximum personal benefit from these decisions. And finally, because we are an outsourced solution, we free up your time so that working with us can actually lead to better results with a lot less effort that you have to put in. Another important distinguishing factor about our firm is that we believe that it's important that we eat our own cooking, and this comes from a saying by Warren Buffett. This means that we're using the same investment strategies that we recommend to our clients. We're living proof that our investment strategies work. Both myself and my partner, Terry, have actually used our own strategies to create significant wealth for ourselves. And we're also well established in a very stable platform. We've been in business for over 17 years, since 2002, and we serve over 200 families, and we're growing our referral to the various families that we work with. So we expect that number to go higher in the years to come. A little bit about our team. We have about 7 people at the firm. Here we're featuring 3 of our main investment professionals. So as for myself, my background is I went to Columbia undergrad, Harvard Law School. I worked as an investment banker before founding Ridgewood Investments. And as a result of my work on Wall Street, I really got to understand how securities markets work at a very high level. And we use this experience to inform the work that we do with my clients. On this page is also Sam Namiri. He's based in our Beverly Hills office, and Sam works with our small cap and micro cap strategies. He worked closely with me on our micro cap fund. And Sam's background is that he went to Berkeley undergrad. He then went to Columbia Business School for his MBA. And after his MBA, he then got a job in investments at a small cap hedge fund before finally joining Ridgewood Investments. And last but not least on this page is Terry McGuire. He's based in our Southern California office in Palos Verdes. Terry has an excellent background as well, very high level background. He went to Berkeley undergrad just like Sam. After Berkeley, he went to Harvard Law School, where I also went, and that's where we met. And then he became a lawyer for a couple of years, and then he went back to get his MBA from Harvard Business School, where he graduated with distinction. And all of our people at Ridgewood have excellent backgrounds, just like 3 of us. So you're always going to be working with very high-level people with tremendous education and experience, and it comes through and shows in the work that we do and the results that we produce for clients. So what are the things that we know how to do? First of all, we focus on investment excellence, and we focus on growing your investments through our various investment management strategies. On the financial planning side or the financial impact side, we help to reduce the taxes that you pay using smart tax saving strategies. We're great at strategies that will generate passive income and create retirement and passive income for you, which leads to our work related to retirement plans, qualified benefit plans, and defined benefit plans, and other retirement strategies to help you accumulate wealth and have a very comfortable retirement. And that would cover expenses that come later in life, such as healthcare expenses, which are always growing. The bottom line to all the work that we do is that the work we do leads to freedom for you and your family, and it gives you options to leave a legacy, the type of legacy that you want to see. So how are we different? We're a small boutique firm. You deal with very high qualified people who directly take an interest in working with you. But this slide here, we're explaining a very completely opposite approach between the Ridgewood model and the traditional model in the brokerage firms. In our case, we take an educational-oriented, client-focused view, which is why the client here is at the base of the pyramid. And by putting the client at the center of the work that we do, our view or our conception is that we then look around and have an open architecture approach to find the best tools and solutions to serve and to meet that client's needs. And the advisor is the quarterback who is coordinating and has the expertise to use these tools and solutions to service the client. But the client comes at the center of our process and our thought process and our culture. In contrast, the traditional brokerage model, which led to the issues like the financial crisis, was one where the client is almost an afterthought. It's an unbalanced pyramid where products are the focus and it's a sales-oriented culture. And the idea is they decide what products they're trying to move and what products will make them the most money, which then drives their focus on selling those products and convincing their clients to buy the products, whether or not the products are the right things for the client. And unfortunately, this distinction isn't always obvious to everyone, and it can lead to really unwanted outcomes for clients. So unlike most brokerage houses, we focus on the client and we make sure that our attention is on the success of the client. Some other differences is our culture and our ability to do a lot of things in-house that are differentiated. So right here, we're explaining how, first of all, a lot of the investments we run, we do them in-house and we base them on research that we conduct internally within Ridgewood Investments using the expertise of the personnel that are in the firm. Also, as we've mentioned, and it's not limited to the three that I highlighted, we have very highly educated, credentialed, and experienced advisors and experienced employees and a great culture. We also pride ourselves, besides in terms of our education and experience, we also pride ourselves on being highly responsive and avuncular, which is an unusual, almost an SAT type word, but it means that we watch out. We're like your uncle who watches out for his nephew or niece. We also focus on a very highly customized and customizable investments, including sophisticated private investments like income-producing commercial real estate and even some private businesses that can generate high returns. And finally, we think it's important, because we eat our own cooking, that the cost of our services relative to the value that we deliver be very reasonable. We always try to put ourselves in the shoes of our client to make sure that the client experience is a good one, not only from the service angle, but also from a totality of the value that we deliver. Now, we're not for everyone. One of our core principles is that we believe that we are for long-term investors. And the reason that we are for long-term investors is that our philosophies are primarily based around looking for value and finding bargains and finding opportunities that others are missing. This means that we're not afraid to go against the crowd. But this also means that, when you go against the crowd, it sometimes takes time for our analysis and our insight to show up in value. So we need investors who are also thinking long-term. We like also to focus on the long-term because in the long run, our analysis and our thinking will have the biggest impact on the portfolio returns. Whereas when people focus on the short term, a lot of other factors such as randomness and unpredictable things come into the picture. Focusing on the long term also allows us to focus on the big picture and identify themes and trends where we can really move the needle for you as an investor. At the end of the day, it's all about compounding your capital and risking and limiting the risk of having a permanent loss. As Bill Gates once observed, most people overestimate what's possible in the short term. I think he said a year, but they underestimate vastly what's possible in the long term. That is, 3 to 5 years. So by helping us, by focusing on the long term and working with long-term investors, we're able to focus on the things where we can really move the needle for you. Now, over the next couple of slides, I'm going to cover several investment strategies, but the key point to keep in mind is that these investment strategies are tools. We have a number of tools in our toolbox. Over here, we're talking about our indexing and enhanced indexing strategies, which are advantageous because they're diversified and robust, and they're highly liquid and available. So these are strategies that if you invest in them and you need money unexpectedly, they will be available and we can get you that money generally relatively quickly. Some other investment strategies include our strategies where we invest in private commercial real estate. Here's a picture of an actual property that we had a large investment in. And our income producing real estate investments like this property and other properties can generate great current income. They give great tax benefits and they lead to both current income and appreciation. So we think they're very complementary to some of our other portfolios. Of course, these are private investments that are available for qualified clients. This is a level just above accredited investors. And if it applies to you, we can explain the details. Another investment approach that we really like is our focus on dividend growth companies. So these are companies that are creating a growing stream of dividends that they pay out. And what's great about this strategy is that it generates income and it generates growth. And also, if you are thinking long-term about retirement, it's what we call a self-executing retirement income strategy. That is, since you make these investments over time and over a period of time, ideally, 10 plus years, you're going to then get growing dividends coming out. So you don't need to be worrying about, well, where will my retirement income come from? What will I have to sell? Because the dividends eventually can be so substantial that you can literally just live off of the dividends if you do it with the right amount of savings and the right amount of time frame to let those dividends grow for you. And finally, we have a number of other individual investment strategies that includes individual value stocks, fixed income portfolios of bonds, municipal bonds, corporate bonds, government bonds. And we have a number of sophisticated private fund strategies. That's pretty unusual for a boutique investment firm like ours, including our microcap strategy that invests in the smallest businesses. And there are studies that show that smaller businesses over the long term actually give the highest returns as compared to medium-sized or large businesses. And we also have a private lending strategy where we're able to generate pretty significant mid to high single digit type returns by making private loans against secured real estate and some other areas. The key underlying principle among all of our investment strategies is that we have a consistent investment philosophy that informs all of our different work that we do. And this consistent investment philosophy involves some core bedrock principles, such as looking for value, such as making sure that whatever we do, we have a margin of safety. Even if we're somewhat wrong in the short term, we're still protected. And we base everything that we do, and all of our strategies are based on doing our own internal homework and research. So we're never just going to read a research report or just rely on what Wall Street thinks. We're going to kick the tires ourselves, and we're going to make sure that we have done our homework before we decide to make an investment. The key with all of this is that our work gives you tremendous leverage. I love this quote from Archimedes, where he said, "Give me a lever long enough and I shall move the world." And in this case, we're not talking about moving the world, but we're talking about moving and making a significant difference in your investment portfolio. And that can make a tremendous difference to you and your family. The work that we do is really, really powerful because the one decision that you might make to work with a good advisor, and you might be working in your career for 30 or 40 years or your business for 30 or 40 years, and the savings that you accumulate, what if every dollar that you save could be turned into a multiple of that, $5, $10 or more? That is very doable and possible if your time horizon is long enough, by combining the power of investment compounding that could come from working with a great advisor with your savings efforts. And the result, as we've mentioned before, is a tremendous amount of freedom, and the freedom to create the legacy and leave legacy that you would want to leave for those you love, including your family, loved ones, and charities and causes that you care about in your community. So here's a couple of quick case studies. We work with a lot of millionaire next doors. So these are folks with a high propensity to save. Many times, and in this particular instance, the client that I'm thinking of, they were great savers, but they were earning very little returns on their cash. And this was back in the days when you could actually earn some interest in your bank account. That's not the times we live in right now. Many banks are paying well under 1%. So this client came to Ridgewood. We started compounding for them, and we turned the initial corpus into quite a significant nest egg and created millions of dollars in extra value and retirement freedom for them. This client is now in their 70s and retired, and they really have made, they have just so much freedom and so much more peace of mind because of the growth that they saw in their investments, far more than they would have gotten by leaving their cash earning those low returns in an interest-bearing bank account. Here's the second case study. We got referred to a very high-income surgeon, a doctor, by his estate attorney. Prior to him working with Ridgewood, he was really busy making a lot of speculative investments and holding a lot of cash. What we did was we just turned the whole situation around, created a diversified portfolio, started growing his wealth. He had the income and the sophistication to also invest in some of our private strategies, such as our income-producing real estate and other private fund strategies. And the end result was that he stopped losing and started growing his wealth with much less effort. So what's the next step? Schedule a consultation with one of our advisors. And here's our commitment to you. No sales pitches. The purpose of this first conversation or consultation is we're going to ask you questions to get to know you better. And we're going to give you a chance to ask us any types of questions that you might have. And whether or not we're a fit for you, because we're not a fit for everybody and not everybody's not a fit for us, we can guarantee, we promise that you will come away. If you invest that 20 or 30 minutes to have a conversation with us, you're going to come away with a lot of actionable ideas. You're going to come away with an understanding of the opportunities that exist in your particular situation that could create a huge benefit for you, and some options as to how you can actually capture some of those benefits if you decide that that's something you want to do. And last but not least, as a thank you for you, spending the time to listen to this whole webinar, we want to give you our Ridgewood Investments No Risk Guarantee, which you can mention when you schedule your conversation or consultation with one of us. And if you move forward after your consultation and you decide to work with Ridgewood Investments and are unhappy for any reason within the first 6 months, you can let us know. We're going to refund all of your fees up to that point. No questions asked, because we want to make sure that the clients that we work with are on board, in sync, and are basically having a great experience working with Ridgewood Investments. So thanks a lot for listening to our webinar. We look forward to speaking to you about your own specific situation and helping you out to get the freedom and the legacy that you deserve, you and your family deserve.